All right, guys. So another between heaven and hell. Tanya is still in the hospital. She is sick. She's been throwing up today, and I guess it's just been a 24-hour bug. So I haven't been hearing a lot out of her. She does want to do the show, obviously, but she just keep her in prayer. Hopefully, she can get her bed sores healed. With them, they are using Manuka honey, which is good because it's antibacterial, but they're not using probiotics. They did that in the hospital a little bit, but they're not doing it in this nursing home. So hopefully she can get to feeling better here and we can get her back on the show. I'm going to read just a couple verses out of Matthew from the Holy Bible NASB. And the focus on this episode is I'm just starting a class on Reiki. And that was a big focus for me was, does this conflict with Christianity? And there are a couple of us who are Christians in the class, and it's a very big deal for us to not be doing something that we think is wrong. You know, we've sought counsel from a lot of people who in and out of the faith. I know my mom, she goes to church most all her life, and she says, well, you're probably all right. What Reiki is it's energy healing. So you're not a healer, you're just a channeler, and you're using the energy that supposedly is in everything. But it can heal people. The energy can. But basically, it's just an intelligent energy, and that's the best way I can describe it. And they say it's not associated with any religion. It's just present in all things, living and inanimate. So they thought that maybe it's possible Jesus could have used Reiki in the laying of the hands when he healed, but there's also a Bible scripture where he healed a priest's ear after it was cut off right before his crucifixion. And Reiki's not going to produce an ear out of thin air after it was cut off your head. I mean, that's not Reiki there, but who knows? Maybe he could have done that in some instances. We just don't know. I posited that question to them, and they said, well, maybe he was more attuned with Reiki and it was able to do something like that. We just don't know. There's so much that we don't know about this, but we will say that this energy practice is being used by schools in the country now. Some of them, like Ohio State University, or I think James Madison University, if I'm thinking right. The Cleveland Clinic is using this, so it's not mainstream, but it's becoming more known. And I want to make darn sure that I'm not doing something I shouldn't be, because one of the other pastors, Bow and Arrow, his pastor up on Emerson Avenue here in Parkersburg, preached against it. And I can understand it's like a mysticism thing, but, you know, I think it's fine. I don't know. But it's something that I have prayed about. And of course, my pastor today preached on the forbidden fruit from the tree of good and evil. And, you know, he said it wasn't just Eve, it was Adam too. They both sinned. She may have been the first one, but the devil conned them and lied to them and said, you will not surely die if you eat this fruit. And of course, they partook of it, and it wasn't just eating it, it was touching it. They weren't supposed to have anything to do with it, but they were seeking that knowledge. And as soon as they ate it, they knew they were naked and all that stuff, and they had knowledge and wisdom, and it wasn't what they were meant to have. And who knows, is this something more of the same? I don't know. I mean, I think it's okay, but, you know, as with always on stuff like this, things that the Bible does say you don't need to consult soothsayers and psychics and mystics and stuff like that, because you're not really supposed to know your end of days. I know I did go to a psychic when I was living in Muncie. This has been years ago before I joined the Army, and I got the whole spiel. I didn't know I was going to get all of it. I just did it one time because I was curious about it, and I just wanted to know if I should join the Army then or not. You know, it was a big career change for me, and she said at that time, I don't think it was the time, so I waited on it, and then she told me when I was going to die and all this stuff, way down the road and whatever. And she did say that somebody was talking to me, it was very close, and said that everything's going to be okay, that they're watching over me. And I thought, well, maybe that was my grandma. I don't know. But back to the Reiki discussion here. I looked up a couple verses in Matthew, and it's not directly related, but Tanya, she said that I should read some verses from the Bible, and I think she's right about that. This is a Christian show here, and I don't want to veer from the book. So, let me see here. Talks a little bit in Matthew chapter 13, the narrow and wide gates. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. And then here was a tree and its fruit. So I literally just opened this up to one page. I wasn't looking for anything in specific, and it went right to the tree and its fruit, and that's what our pastor preached on today. In Matthew chapter 15, or book 15, says, "Beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Grapes are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor figs from thistles, are they? So every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then you will know them by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven will enter. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name cast out demons, in your name perform many miracles?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness.'" So that's pretty eye-opening right there. I mean, there are a lot of people who think they're going to make it into heaven, and on that day, when Judgment Day comes and they die, and their soul leaves their physical container, and they see Jesus on Judgment Day, and they're going to say, "Well, I mean, is it my time to go in?" He's going to say, "Depart from me. I don't know who you are. I never knew you." So, because they're practicing lawlessness, and they think that they're doing the right things. So it's very important to seek Jesus out, go into prayer, and if you're unsure about something, ask him. You may not get a direct answer, and you may not know, but I think eventually you'll get a sense. So use that to apply to a lot of things in your life that you should or should not do. We used to have the little bracelets that you'd put on your wrist, and it said WWJD for what would Jesus do. So I haven't seen those lately. It's kind of fallen out of favor, but I want to find one and kind of bring it back. So that's all I got, guys. I hope this week was good for you. I know we had a big windstorm here in West Virginia. Yesterday, I was at work at Lowe's, and that wind, the gusts went up to about 45 to 50 miles an hour, and it knocked me on my heels. We had a lot of damage at the store. A lot of our grills fell down. It damaged about 13 of them, and if it knocked them down to 50%, I might get one. I don't know, but we had a lot of trees in the area come down. Right across our street, our neighbor had a big tree fall right on the roof of their house. The internet's still out for a lot of people here in this city, and a lot of people were huddled up at McDonald's in their vehicles trying to pull internet. So that's still going on. A lot of people still don't have their power turned back, or their internet turned back on. So we were fortunate here, even though the tree came down across the street. We did have shingles in our yard, in the grass. I don't know if they were from our roof or the neighbor's roof next house over, but there are about 3 to 4 shingles in our yard, and we don't have much of a yard. So those winds were very strong yesterday, and we know those storms produced tornadoes out in Missouri and stuff. So we were pretty fortunate compared to those people out there. So anyway, speak to the sky in your prayers, and hopefully she'll feel better, and she'll be on next week. So thanks for tuning in. And if you guys are indecisive about something in your life, whether you should do it or not, it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but you need to consult Jesus in prayer. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week on another episode of Between Heaven and Hell.